It is back to school time, and that means it's time to go school supply shopping. So today I wanted to take some time to show you how to use your Cricut machine to label all of those school supplies. So today I'm going to cover everything from folders and notebooks to individual pencils and markers and crayons. Yes, I'm going to show you how to make labels for each individual pencil so that your kiddo doesn't lose them, water bottles, and then even some tags that you can sew into your kids' sweaters or jackets so that they don't end up losing them on the playground and never finding them again. So let's get started. I'll show you step by step how to label all of your school supplies for the new school year. I use several different materials to make the different kinds of labels. For our sticker type labels for all of our pencils and crayons and folders and things like that, I used this printable vinyl. For our clothing labels, you're going to need polyester ribbon. Make sure that it says it's polyester to use with the heat transfer pens. And the one that I'm using is 5/8 inch. You can use bigger or smaller depending on what look you're going for. I'm also using Cricut's fine point and fusible ink pens. These are 0.4 size, so they give that nice thin line. You'll also want a piece of paper. We then have our parchment paper and a piece of cardstock to help with the bleeding and help with the heat disbursement. It's also helpful to have some of Cricut's heat resistant tape. And then I'm going to be using my Easy Press. You can use an iron if you don't have an Easy Press. And then I have their mat that we can put underneath it. For our water bottles, we're using permanent vinyl. So make sure that you want them to be washable. And so we're going to be using the permanent glossy vinyl for our water bottles. You'll also need your Cricut machine. Of course, I'm using my Cricut Maker, and you'll need a standard grip cutting mat. Okay, so to make the labels, we'll open up Cricut Design Space, and we'll go to Images and search for the words frame print. And this one will come up here. Select that one, insert image. And once you have that, you can go over here to the side and right click on one of the images from it, click Image Info, go to View Image Sets, and it'll bring up all the ones that are in this image set. And this is the other one that I'm using right here, is this circle. So go ahead and insert that image. For the folder labels, I resized them to be about 5.5 inches wide. And then I made my circle stickers about 2.5 inches wide. You can make them bigger or smaller depending on your needs, of course. Now for the really tiny labels for the pencils and markers and stuff, go ahead and copy and paste this rectangle, and we're going to unlock the dimensions to make it what we want. For our width, it's going to be 1 inch wide, and our height is 0.25 inches high. So that gives us a good size for our little pencil stickers. Type in the name first, and the font name is called DTC Fluffy Socks. Now we want to change the operation from basic cut to print then cut standard. And then once you have the name, you can click and drag to make it the size that you want. We're going to need it really small. Let's zoom in, and then go ahead and click and drag a rectangle around there. Go to Align and go to Center. Okay, and then once you're happy with that, make sure that you click the words, change them to black, and change it to print then cut. And then highlight and select both items, and you want to flatten it. And that just keeps it from trying to like cut out the letters. You want it to only cut around the outside of the item. Since you're gonna want a bunch of these, go ahead and copy and paste however many you need. And so you'll see it will sort it onto different pieces of paper for you. So go ahead and click Continue. And then we're going to click Send to Printer, and make sure that you put the correct amount of papers in there when you're printing, and that you're printing on the correct side. And then when you go to cut, go to Browse All Materials, search for Printable And you can see printable vinyl right here. So go ahead and select that one. Make sure your fine point blade is in and then load that up to cut. Put the printed out paper on your Cricut. Make sure it's facing the correct direction. Load that up and then press the blinking button to cut. So once you've got those all printed and cut, you can peel off the stickers and label your various items, like folders. For the crayons, I like to put the label on as high as possible, just because you know the kids are going to be using it and it'll start peeling off. So I put it on around the top like this on the paper. That way it'll stay on a little bit better too, because they'll be holding the crayon down here and you'll still be able to see their name on the little label. Things like pencil boxes and binders, you can put a name label on like that. For the pencils, I like to put the label on lengthwise. So just kind of center it on one of the flat edges if you have a pencil like this, and then just smooth it all down. Again, put it as far away from the end as possible. For the clothing tags, I decided to add a little shape around it. So the one I used is a geometric rectangle shape. And if you go over here to operation to draw only, then that should bring up this one here. Go ahead and insert that and then rotate it while holding down the shift key to make it the right direction. And then you want to resize it, unlock the dimensions, make it 0.87 wide by 0.57 high. I also decided to make this a different color, so you can change the color here. It doesn't matter which color you choose as long as it's different from the words. And then I'm going to add the child's name on 2 separate lines. And then the font that I'm using for this is called Dear John. And we want to change this from basic cut to pen and resize it and center it. And once you have that the right size, select both of them and click attach, so that they stay in their places. And then again, the only operation you should have for the whole thing is pen. Go over and click make it. Make sure that you push the mirror button over here. Push continue. And we're just going to use copy paper because all we're doing right now is drawing with our pen. And it says over here to load, it'll tell you each pen to load for each step. So my first step here is going to be load the pink pen and then coming up the black pen. So I'm going to load up my pink pen, load up my paper on my mat, load that up, and click the flashing button to start drawing. Go ahead and load your pink pen or whatever color you used and load up the black pen. Press the button again and it will draw the letters. And then you'll have created this little iron-on that you can cut out and use later. And I cut a length of ribbon a little bit longer than I'm gonna need. And then I'm gonna use some of my heat-resistant tape to hold that in place. Have a piece of cardstock down on top of your Easy Press mat and push your ribbon with the design face down on top of that. Then take your parchment paper or a piece of butcher paper that is at least the same size as your Easy Press. Put that on top. Heat your Easy Press to 385 degrees and we'll be pressing for 40 seconds. When that's done, take it off and let everything cool just enough so that it's not hot when you try and touch it. And then go ahead and peel off the paper while your design is still warm. Now I don't want my edge to be fraying like that. I'm gonna take my lighter, and this is optional. You can also use some fray glue products that they have, but I'm just gonna barely touch the edge of that just to melt it a little bit, and that will keep the edge from fraying. Now when I sew this in, I'm going to fold it in half like a tag. So I'm actually going to cut off the other end and then melt that as well. And then that is ready to be sewn into a sweater or a shirt or anything else like that that you need a fabric label for. For the water bottles, I came up with a few different designs. I'm gonna just be making this Austin one because Austin's the only one that needs a water bottle right now. I'm using the font Mondo Fonts, Mondo Stencil, and I decided I wanted to make it look sort of like a stencil. So I took a square, unlock that, make it into a rectangle. I'm going to right click on that and push send to back so it will be behind my words here. And then just kind of play around with it, make it the size that you want. Click and drag to select both, align to center, and then while they're both still selected, push slice. And then what that will do is create all these different shapes, but what I'm really wanting to use right here is just this Austin. And I'm gonna go ahead and make that white so it's easier for me to see. So I'm gonna get rid of those. And then I want my decal to be about 4 inches wide. You can make it bigger or smaller depending on the size of your water bottle, but I want to make sure that he's able to read it all on one side. And go ahead and click make it. For our base material, we're gonna select vinyl. Make sure that your fine point blade is loaded, and then we can go to cut. And since it's just a small decal that I'm cutting, I'm gonna just cut off a small scrap of this vinyl. Load up your mat and send that through to cut. And then since the decal is smaller than my vinyl, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut around it and weed out the excess vinyl. Next, I'm going to grab some transfer tape and cut it the same size, or about the same size as my piece of vinyl here. Peel the backing off the transfer tape, put it on top of your vinyl decal, rub that down, get your water bottle ready, make sure it's nice and clean and dry, and then peel up the transfer tape and make sure that all of the vinyl is sticking to it. Place the design where you want it on the water bottle. Rub it down with your fingers, and then with your little scraper tool, and then slowly and carefully peel off the transfer tape, making sure that the vinyl stays where it should. And there you have a very nicely labeled water bottle. I really like how the blue is showing through on the white. It looks really nice. So that is it. I hope your kiddos have a great school year. Mine are so excited to be back in school, and especially now that I made all these cute labels for all of their school supplies. Hope you have a great rest of your week. The links to all of the supplies that I used in this video will be listed in the description below so you can easily find them. Make sure to head over to my blog, cutesy crafts.com, for more fun craft ideas.